record.
All right, well, good morning. We're going to go ahead and get started, seeing if anybody else was going to trickle in. How's everybody doing?
Good.
Yeah?
Praise the Lord, we got a nice warm place.
Yeah, I know. This time last week, I was in Louisville, Kentucky, and it was -5. So it's way warmer for me than yeah, it's nice outside. So I agree with you. All right, well, hopefully you are all here for the pre-marriage class. That's what's on the screen behind you there. So if you're here for something else, you're welcome to hang out. But I don't know if it'll be applicable or not. I want to go ahead and pray, and then we're just going to dig right in. This will probably be the shortest of the classes that we have together. This is kind of like an intro thing. You haven't had the books yet, so there's no way that you could have known any of the stuff that's in the book. I know, yeah. So, and then I'm going to share a little bit about me and my wife and our family and my role here, and then I want to hear from you guys. So hopefully you're a little bit talkative this morning. We'll see how that goes. Okay, let's pray. Heavenly Father, we thank you for this morning, and we thank you for the start of this class. We ask that you would bless today as well as the next 9 weeks that we're together. And God, this is for your honor and for your glory. So I pray that the end of these total of 10 weeks, God, that future husbands, would be ready to say I do to all that you have asked of them, and wives would be ready to say I do for all that you've asked of them. And just ask you to be with me, allow me to articulate what I need to articulate, to be clear, and thank you again for who you are, for your Son, for the gospel. In Jesus' name we pray. Amen. All right, so a little bit about me. I'm the counseling pastor here. I have been here for 10 years, and so my main, the main stuff that I oversee is the day-to-day counseling, and so that runs the full gamut of just people who need to make decisions in life, all the way to what probably secular culture would call mental health issues. So I oversee all that. We have 38 counselors who are counseling at least once a week. A lot of them are counseling more than once a week. So that's my main job. This is a unique perspective for me because you're here because you want to do something fun and good, right? You're not coming here because there's necessarily a problem that you need fixed, which is different than everything else that I oversee. So that's a little bit about my day-to-day job here. My wife and I, Corey, we have been married for 19 years. It'll be 20 years in August. And she was 19 when we got married, and I was 21.
Wow.
So that tells you a little bit about us. She did Running Start. So she graduated with her 4-year degree at 19. So she actually had her 4-year degree when we got married. And then I took the uber slow route. I had my 2-year degree when we got married, and then the first 2 years of our marriage, I finished up my 4-year. Then I got my master's, and I told her I would be done by the time I'm 40, and I lied. I am in a doctoral program right now, due to be done this time next year. But I am 41. So, well, thank you. Yeah, I don't. Yeah.
That's a tough road.
It's fun. Yeah, it is hard, but it's fun. So, and we also have 6 kids. That is the tribe. That's a trendy term. The Marshall tribe, right? We have 6 kids. So my oldest is 16, and that is a whole new world for us. She has her license, which is great because she gets to drive all over the place, and she does a great job of that. And then our youngest is 1.
Wow.
So yeah, it goes 16, 14, 11, 9, 7, and 1. So little Finley she is loved on all over the place. So, and we have 2 dogs as well. We have Ryder, who is a 1-year-old lab, and he is a blast. He's full of energy. And Harley, who is the grumpy old man. He is 10 years old. He's a little miniature Schnauzer Maltese, and he's great because he doesn't shed, he doesn't have fur, he has hair, but he is the like, stop running, stop playing, so he just likes to lay around and bark at people. So anyways, that's our plan. So if you see me outside of this room, maybe on a Sunday morning over next door, you might see my wife around and then a bunch of kids hovering around. Probably chances are they belong to me. So I think that is it. Yes?
So how many are in the quiver? Doesn't God say that? How many quiver full?
I have no idea. Mine's full. Yeah, yeah. Current day equivalent for me, the quiver is the vehicle, and we have no more seatbelts in any of our vehicles. So the quiver is full. If God would like to expand my quiver and bless me with something that fits more people, I'll just say this. I'm happy where I'm at right now. I'm not looking to grow anymore. Anyway, that's me in a nutshell. So let me hear from you guys. And we're going to do it this way. I'm starting with how did it all start? So every relationship in here has a beginning, right? And so I want to hear about that beginning. You might be here like, I don't want to tell you the beginning, but I want to hear it. And chances are everybody else in here wants to hear it as well. Trust me on that one. Okay, so here's some questions. When are you getting married? I want to know that. How soon are you getting married, or how far away are you getting married, things like that. How did you meet? That is a great question. And I will tell you how I met my wife as we get to that question. And then what attracted you to each other? I want to hear that. And physical attraction is okay. Don't feel like you got to give some, we were having a Bible study and, God rearranged words to where her name was there. And no, if it's like, no, she was hot. Okay, that's fine. I want to hear that. All right, and then how long did it take before you knew that he or she was the one? All right, so let's just kind of go through that. You don't have to give long answers, but I want to hear these things. So we'll start over here.
Okay. So we're going through all the questions? Right?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So we're getting married August 11th.
Stand up.
August. Oh, if you want to, you don't have to. Okay.
I'm Brian. This is my fiance, Marissa.
Hi. We're getting married August 11th of this year.
We met at the gym, and
All right.
just came over to the water fountain, just started a conversation, like, hey, we're out for dinner. We went out to dinner at the Crab Shack down in Seattle, where, it was our first date. So, we're sitting there, we're starting to talk, and there's some commotion behind us. Well, Lily's having an allergy reaction, and she's everywhere, right behind us. And she has the full view of it. It's behind me, so like I didn't have to see it. But they're really good at containing that situation, make sure the paramedics and stuff in there. Woman walks by me because she sees this. I'm like, oh, my appetite's gone. She puts her hand on my shoulder. Like, well, at least this isn't your guys' first date. But luckily they moved us to a different part of there, and I think we stayed there for like 2 hours just talking.
Yeah.
So
Cool. And how long have you guys known each other?
a little over 3 years now.
Oh wow. Okay, good. All right. And so, Marissa, anything else you want to add?
I think that covers it. If I were to add anything, when we started talking at the gym, we made some connections right away. Like, he at the time worked for the company who had built the barn at my parents' house, and we were riding horses, and so he didn't work there at the time, but we had kind of some connections like that where it was like, this is just too small of a world, like we might as well go out and
Cool.
and then as far as like what attracted me to Brian, he's just such a kind person. Like, I told my mom, like, really early on, like continuously throughout our relationship, like, Brian is a better person than I'll ever be. Like, just, seeing, him and his friends would maybe get into a tiff or an argument, or there would be something where I would be like, that would make me so angry if I was in that position. And he's just so kind to them that it's like, oh, well, I want to be around that. That was just a very attractive thing to me. And he was really tall too.
Cool. All right. Cool. Well, thank you. Perfect. All right, so we're gonna make our way up here.
I'm Kurt, this is my fiance Marcy. We are set to get married on April 21st, which is Saturday.
Hey.
And we met about 20 years ago in college over at Whitworth University in Spokane. And then reconnected through Facebook probably a year and a half ago. And grew our friendship and then dated for 6 months, and then we're engaged October 1st, which is an easy day for me to remember.
Yeah.
1st of October.
There you go.
And then, let's see, that's how we met. I think what attracted me to her was the amount of values that lined up, our faith, and then her strong appreciation and love for family. And then, let's see, I've spoken enough. What do you have to say?
No, I would agree with everything you said, and I just think it's just been an amazing journey to see how God has brought us to meet each other and then again together. And so that's been a beautiful thing, and I think one of the things that attracted me to him was just his kindness and just his compassion. It's amazing.
All right, so we've got the gym and we've got Facebook.
Well,
All right.
Well, college first.
Oh, yeah, that's right. Yes, college. Yes, college.
That was just it.
There you go. Okay. Yeah. All right.
My name's Jim Gasca. This is Christy. Let's see. We are engaged and engaged.
Okay.
We have a date, July 22nd.
For marriage or for engagement? Okay.
For marriage.
Okay.
Engagement's that's my little thing. I'm trying to still work on.
Okay. All right. All right.
No pressure.
Yeah. We met through work. We've known each other for about 5 years. Just recently started dating 5 months ago. What attracted me to her was just her beauty and her hair and her smile and all that great stuff. And how long did it take me to know that she was the one right away? Probably in a few weeks.
Okay.
Got it. Yeah, so through work.
Okay.
One thing that Jim attracted me to him was his kindness. Just sweet, kind, gentle spirit. And I knew he was the one on our second. And that was surprising to me.
Yeah.
He walked away and I thought, wow, Lord, this is what it's like. And I'm going to marry him. I've been praying many years, so.
All right. Well,
Many
thank you.
years.
All right.
Many years.
So we've got the gym, and we've got work, and we've got college rekindled via Facebook. Okay. All right. Go to the back.
I've been elected to speak tonight. So.
Okay. Sounds good.
I'm Alex, and this is my fiance Riley. We're getting married July 4th because that's easy for me to remember. and in Hawaii too, it should be.
You're getting married in Hawaii?
Yeah, on a family vacation.
Cool.
We met at our friend's house, a friend of mine from high school, and she like came into the room and I was immediately like bedazzled by her and totally attracted, and then we ended up hitting it off really well, and actually I've spent almost every day together since we met.
Okay.
Almost 2 years ago, almost every day together. And then when after like about 6 months, and we really wanted to get more serious with going to church, and she was super responsive to the word, and that's when I kind of I think this is really the one, and she's done a really good job keeping me in check and more than I feel I'm doing for her, so that's how I knew that was what God wanted for me. Cool. So, do you have anything you
Yeah, I kind of knew I would like him way before I even met him, because his friends would talk to me about him all the time. So I was like, I'm gonna like this person, I know when I meet him. And so since then I knew.
Cool. So through friends then?
Yes.
All right.
Mutual.
Just trying to track everybody here. Okay, all right, so we got college, working out, work, friends. All right. Come over here.
I'm gonna do it sitting. I'm comfortable right here.
There you go.
So I'm Austin,
I'm Megan.
and I'm waiting to get engaged. I kind of want to get through this, you know.
Yeah.
I know she's the one, but she doesn't even know if I have the ring yet or anything like that.
Okay.
So it's still a surprise. We're hoping to get married sometime this summer.
Okay.
And we met at a church, at a homeschool co-op. So we're both homeschooled. We've known each other for a long time. And what attracted us to each other. I always joke with her because the first date we like sat down to get lunch. It was pajama day at the school. And I was like interested in her, but I showed up in full Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtle pajamas. So, and she still wanted to hang out with me after that. So it's like, that's a good sign.
Yeah.
I think what attracted me to her was probably just her character and her poise and the way that she carries herself. I think there's a lot of, especially in today's society, you can be a very loose woman and that's okay. And she is not that way. She's a very strong character, very principled person. And that attracted me to her right away.
Cool.
And I think I knew that she was the one in the first like couple weeks, couple months. But she got in a pretty serious bike accident, and I remember I was in the ER after that like entire day at 3 in the morning. She was in operation. I think it was kind of in that moment at like 3 in the morning that I was in the not the operating room, in the waiting room with her mom, and her mom was asleep. And I'm like, I'm not asleep at all. I'm like watching the update on the TV, like, you know, what's gonna happen, what's going on. And I was like, I don't think that I would be this worried about somebody that I wasn't serious about.
Yeah. Cool.
I think what attracted me to him was pajamas was probably not what it was. But I think it was his passion. I mean, passion for anything, whether it's pajama day or for Christ or for just his passion in everything that he does and in the ways that I'm also passionate about. That was a huge thing. And I think I don't know the date of when it was, but I think I know the feeling of what I felt when I knew that he was the one. Was when I realized that of how much he has come alongside me and helped me grow. And I don't think I've ever felt that way or experienced that much growth with anyone else, any one particular person than with him.
Hopefully you can work the Ninja Turtle. That we said,
Into life,
like
yeah.
all of life. My 7-year-old son would be his hero right now. All right, let's work our way. Let's go over here.
Well, I'm Ken Carlos. This is my future wife, Melinda. We had our congregation church, Messianic church. And we also both go to a Sunday church as well. So I was attracted to her. And pretty good with her. So she wasn't exactly easy. Had to chase her for quite a while. So anyway, it was worth it in the end. And we haven't set a date yet. It's got some obstacles to go through, but hopefully within maybe 6 months to a year.
Well, yes, he's just turned 76 and I'm 73, so there's a lot of different baggages and water and kind of on the bridge. I was married before my late husband died almost 4 years ago. In my heart, only God knew what was in my heart, I said, oh Lord, what's happening? Did you allow me to stay in the house that I'm in? And I kept thinking, okay, people saying you should move this, and I go, oh Lord, am I supposed to move, whatever, but I had felt there was a spirit of Nehemiah in the area to be praying. I'm an intercessor, and be praying for the area. So I said, Lord, if I'm to be doing something for you with someone to join me, you're going to have to bring them, and I'm going to have to meet them. I'm not going to internet. I don't like the internet. So, and so bottom line is, I did meet him. I avoided him as best I could, thinking, is he the one or not? So I was hesitant about a relationship because there are issues my late husband and I should have had counseling. We did things in many ways the wrong way, and the results of it weren't always good. So, it's called Live and Learn. So anyway, I really believe that the Lord has introduced us so we can grow in the Lord together as well as do what He wants us to do together. And some of the obstacles are, because I have grown children, 46 and 43, I've got to get a prenuptial agreement, and there's a lot of details to go through.
Yeah, okay. All right. So, I'm just trying to keep track. So no wedding date yet, but you're hoping like,
Right.
and okay, and no wedding date yet, and no wedding date yet. Well, we're kind of like pre-engagement, kind of. Yeah, I'm encouraged by that. Trust me, that's very encouraging, because once you get everything going, right, like to throw the brakes on, yeah, right, like that's a hard thing to do. So I'm encouraged. Okay, let's slide over here. Jacob and Braylon.
Oh, we're cool.
Oh!
We'll go last. We're cool.
Okay. So basically, I was just walked into the church that her dad is a pastor at, which is North Lake Christian Church.
We didn't want to be pastored by my dad.
And so the second Sunday I was there, I met Braylon. And I was like, oh, she has pretty eyes. And I was like, nope, do what you always do. Just eyes front, make sure you go to church, if you're a woman about God, just keep going. And so then we started going to
Small group together.
And I was just like, okay, so this girl is very
He was
smart.
watching me. I could tell.
So I was attracted to her because she was very smart, she had it together, she was good at having on her shoulders, and she was very pretty, so that was a plus. And then what really kicked it off is we decided to go on a hike, and we got a group of people to go on a hike up Mount Pilchuck.
And they all bailed.
So then it was just the two of us hiking up Mount Pilchuck.
It was our first accidental date.
2 feet of snow. So.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah, it was technically close, but we decided to do it anyway.
No wonder they bailed.
Yeah. But actually afterwards, we spent like 8 hours together, just the two of us, the drive there, the 6 hours hiking, because we hiked like 12 miles, and then the hour and a half back. And my sister's like, Braylon, stop smiling. And I was like, I can't. Because 8 hours with someone and you still want to be in their presence, and so I was like, this is a good one.
Yeah. That's a great hiking in the snow. Now, who secretly called everybody and said, hey, don't show up? No, I'm kidding.
Actually, yeah, he kept like,
All
being
right.
like, do you know, Jacob? I'm like, yeah, you know Jacob.
And when do you guys get married?
Oh, July 21st.
July 21st. All right, so we have a couple of Julys.
Yeah.
Yeah, okay. Cool. Right on. My bad.
No worries.
My bad.
Well, I'm Peter Headings. This is my. I can just sit. It's fine. I'm Peter. This is my fiance Danielle. We're getting married end of April. We have an actual ceremony in June for family, but we're gonna get officially married and get our place put together before then. So a little non-traditional. We met on Tinder, believe it or not. So we were in a different place then. We've since started coming to church regularly.
Okay.
So we met on Tinder. You know, I thought she was really hot when I first met her, but she has a really great spirit, and that's something that stood out to me right away.
Sweet.
So we've had a little bit of a bumpy road, but you know, we're committed to each other, and you know, we're really we believe that God wants us to be together.
So yeah, as you mentioned, we met on Tinder. Our first date though is we cooked dinner together. So we made curry. And that's how we really started bonding, because we both have a love for cooking, and he's an amazing cook. He's actually a lot better than me. I mean, I'm not bad, but he's wonderful. He loves to do it. Whenever I start to cook for him, he'll try to come in and throw some spices and whatever. I'm like, oh, so much. Anyway, what really attracted me in the beginning, of course, was his looks, and he's tall, 6'2". So that was when you walked in the room, because we met at the coffee shop first, you know, before we actually like hung out at his house, because to make sure he wasn't a creeper.
Yeah.
So yeah, when you walked in the room, my heart, like just in the face got red, and yeah. So I actually knew that he was the one probably like a week after we started hanging out, because we were hanging out every single day. And I never really believed in marriage before I met him.
So just his values, he has a really good upbringing with his family as far as religious upbringing. I did, but he has more of the values instilled in him. I come from a broken and divorced family, and his family's still married, so that really got me even more, attracted to him as well, and his family is wonderful. So I just have to, change my family history, have a family like his, and yeah, we're doing well. We've had a bumpy road, as you said, but we're doing well.
Right on. All right.
Here for each other.
Cool. All right. So we're going to come over here to Hannah.
My name's Hannah. My fiance obviously is not here. He's in the Navy, so he's currently stationed in Virginia right now. We are getting married April 15th, so tax day. We met at work. We were both dating other people, and we kind of got connected. I was promoted, so I was kind of his boss, and he kind of was checking the schedule to see when he would work with me, and then we both ended up breaking it off with our previous people we were dating, and kind of got connected. We realized all the things we had in common. We did have a little bit of a bumpy road, but we came way past that, and we started coming to church together. What attracted me to him was probably his love for family, his desire to have kids one day, and his desire to serve his country. I found that really attractive. How long did it take before I knew he was the one? Considering we had the bumpy road, it was a little bit. Probably last March when he shipped off to boot camp, and I realized that I didn't really want to spend any more time away from him. Yeah.
Cool. And so Daniel is going to be watching these classes, just FYI. He's going to be logging online. We've got this up here. You'll receive an email with instructions on how to access the class videos. So you'll be able to, if you forgot something, if I say something important randomly, just blah, and out comes something you want to remember, you can access those videos. So, but Daniel will be able to be a part of what we're doing here. And Kings Bay is where you're going to end up, right?
Yeah,
right near the Florida-Georgia border.
Exactly.
Right.
In July, he's going to be moving. He's on submarines, so his submarine will be moving from Virginia to Georgia. So that's where we're going to be for the next 8 years.
Yeah. Cool. All right.
All right. I'm Josh. This is Michaela. We are getting married on July 27th.
Okay.
July weddings. We met through my cousin. So her best friend is my cousin. They grew up all together, and our paths had never crossed for
20 years.
20 years. They never crossed.
Best friends, and she's her cousin, and I never knew him until her wedding last summer.
Oh wow.
Yeah, and so we had met at the wedding. It was kind of a passing meeting, kind of an introduction. We didn't really have much time to talk, and then a few weeks later, I wanted to go on a date with her, and so I got her phone number, gave her a call, and then we went on a date and sat for 4 hours at the restaurant and just talked, and her beauty and just joy, and she's so full of life, and that was really what attracted me to her. And then on our third date is when I knew that she was the one.
Yeah, we both had little bugs in our ears before the wedding. Brooke, my best friend, his cousin, was like, you should just watch out for Josh. And his mom was also, so I was the maid of honor, and his mom was helping her to plan her wedding. And so his mom was also in his ear, just watch out for Michaela. And then I think we were both a little too shy and scared to actually make contact at the wedding, but he was brave a couple weeks later. Probably what attracted me initially was his character, and still is his character. Josh is super hardworking and kind, and I feel like from the beginning he has led me really well, and us. And so.
Cool. All right, so we've got all across the board different ways that God has brought you together. I said I would answer all these questions as well, so let me answer these. My wife is a little bit more on the timid side of things, so I am not. So I'll just give it to you straight. But if you see my wife, just say, Ben told us, and she'll, oh, I'm sorry. So, anyways, when we got married, I mentioned that August 15th. So yes, in the state of Washington, right, I think there's like this written rule, like before a certain date, and rain is just, you got to plan for that, and then after that, it's a flip of the coin. So August 15th was us. How did I meet my wife? So the short answer is I was at Baylor University. I came back for a summer. She was at Central Washington University and came back. I was the youth intern at our church, and she was the front office secretary that just worked on Fridays. I didn't have to work on Fridays, but I found myself working on Fridays. So that's the short story. The long story is I dated her sister. There's the part where she's like, oh yeah, you don't need to say that, Ben. So I dated her sister 5 years prior for 9 months, so it wasn't just a short little date. But I was a junior in high school, and then by the time, I was 16 when that happened, and then I was 21 when we met. We dated for 21 days, and then I asked her to marry me. So how long did I know, or how long did I have to wait until I knew? It was almost instant. I thought to myself, if there's somebody out here better than her, I don't think I'm ever going to find it, or find her. So, and then we were engaged for a year. So what we did was we spent that time. Her dad asked me to wait to get married until she graduated from college, and so I said sure. So every weekend on Thursday, I would drive, because I didn't go back to Baylor. I decided to stick around here. And so I would drive over to get her on Thursday night. So I drive from Port Orchard is where I was at that time. If you know about the peninsula and Bremerton and all that, that's where I was. I would drive from there over to Central, and then I would spend the night, and then Friday after class was over, we'd drive back. And so we spent all that time talking for a whole year, and that was how we really got to know each other. In my youthfulness, I didn't even think about the fact, because I was a youth, at that time a youth intern, I didn't even think about how it would look for me to be spending the night in her house, in her apartment, even though I was on the couch downstairs and her and her roommates were upstairs, but her dad pulled me aside and said, it doesn't look good. So I ended up crashing on her guy friend's couch. I didn't even know. Room full of, an apartment full of college guys I don't know who were not believers, and I would just crash on their couch, and then on Friday I'd get up. So that was kind of how things got started for us. What attracted me to her? I will be honest, her looks were the reason that caught my eye, but the more I got to know her, the more she's not like anybody else in her family. And I'm saying that with all respect, but she is super compassionate and kind, and listens well, and loves to cooperate. And it's just a lot of fun to be around. I think that was a big part for me. We just had a lot of fun together. So, anyways, I know none of that is super uber spiritual. We'll get into all that stuff, because probably at least for me, I can't speak for my wife, but for me, a lot of the concepts in marriage came after we got married. My dad's a pastor, my grandpa's a pastor, my two uncles are pastors, but my pre-marriage counseling consisted of a video. I put in a video, and I had to figure out if I was a lion, or if I was a golden retriever, or a beaver, or otter. Thank you. I was the golden retriever who just wanted to have fun, and my wife, I forget what animal she was, but those weren't on opposite ends of this spectrum, so we were okay from that end. That was one part of pre-marriage counseling for us. The other part was we had to sit with, at that time he was my boss, but the senior pastor of the church, and he basically asked me if I had a budget. And I said no, and he said, we'll get a budget together, so I did. He said, okay, it looks good to me. That was our pre-marriage counseling. And so a lot of what we're going to go through in here came to me after I got married. And I would have loved to have had it before, but God was gracious and He was kind, and my wife and I have not had any major upsets. We don't tend to yell ever. Even though we have 6 kids, we just don't tend to, they might tell you different, but we don't think that we yell. And I'll tell you this quick story about my kids. So every Christmas, we have a staff Christmas party, and Steve Walker gives out an award for the year. He picks somebody on staff and just kind of gives them an award. It might be hard worker or something like that. And so one Christmas, I was floored. He chose me and he gave me the compassion award. And so when I got home, I was telling my kids about it, and my second daughter, she goes, compassion? So, anyway. Obviously, they don't see the side of it. Alrighty. So there's that. Here's something that I just want you to think about. This is where, hopefully, if you're not a public talker, or if you don't like to, talk out loud in front of other people, you'll be a little relieved right now. Because I just want you to think about these things. Because this could get real awkward in here if you were to answer them out loud, and maybe your fiance has never heard you say that before. Right? But I just want you to think about these things, right? Because this is under the category of how has it gone? When I say it, how has your relationship gone, right? What's been the best day that you and your fiance have had? Just think about that. What's been the best day? Right, maybe it was an event that you went to, an event that maybe it was a conversation that you had. Maybe it started out as a horrible day, but because of how it ended up being the best day, right? So just think about that. What's been the worst day that you and your fiance have had? And I think this is an important question for you to answer. If you were to say, we've never had a worse day, every single day has been roses, right? The reality of that being true for the rest of your life isn't very good. There's a reason why I want you to think about the worst day that you and your fiance have had. So think about that. Get some of those thoughts going through your head. And then what's been the biggest disagreement that you've had? That's the biggest disagreement. And there are reasons. We're going to get into these a little bit later, not today, but a little bit later on. There's reasons why I want you to answer these questions. Okay? So what's been the biggest disagreement that you've had? And if my wife and I were to have answered these, like I'm asking you to think about these things, here's some things. We have lots of good days, really good days. The worst day that I still can remember, it was a day where I didn't realize how I had grown up, and the relationship with my parents was not how my wife had grown up and the relationship she had with her parents. So you just have to bear with me. And this will probably be the only time I share all of these personal stories. This isn't about me. This is about equipping you guys. But this will just kind of give you an idea of where I've been and what I want you to think about. So the worst day that I can pinpoint in my wife and I's engagement, my wife is over in Central, about an hour and a half, 2 hours away from Port Orchard. And her mom and her tended to do this when it came to like wedding plans, right? So here's this. And the way she grew up, it was very much children, when you're in the presence of your parents, you just kind of shut up and do what they say. The way I grew up was, as long as you're respectful, you can say anything you want. So you can see, those are different. And so the one day, I drove her back home, and she was due, I think, to go for a dress fitting with her parents. Not with her parents, but with her mom. But on the way back from Central, she just shared with me how stressful the week had been. All of these calls and all of these plans being made. And so I'm thinking in my head, I'll fix this. We'll get this taken care of. And so we're at her mom and dad's house, and I just said, hey, you know what? I realize a lot's gone on this week, and I just figure if it's going to be like this, we'll just do a small wedding. Okay, how do you think that went?
Like a lead balloon.
It went over like a lead balloon. When do you think I found out it went over like a lead balloon? After I left. And then the fireworks started, right? So it was after I was out of the house. That was key for me understanding my wife, right? There are fix-it moments, and even now, I'll ask my wife, is this a fix-it moment? She would know, Then I know it's a listening moment where I'm just going to listen, and I'm not necessarily going to come up with a plan. But that was probably the worst day that we had. And then what's been the biggest disagreement that you've had? And this is why this is an important question from my perspective. In our engagement, I would have said, we don't have disagreements. And I would have been honest. And she would have said, we don't have disagreements. And she would have been honest. But the question then becomes, why don't you have disagreements? Then you're your own person. Corey, you're your own person. Scripture here says where two people come together, there will be disagreements.
That's right.
So why aren't you having disagreements? And that would have been a very important idea to uncover and develop. Now, I'm not going to share all that, like what I know now. That would have been helpful. You're going to find out your own stuff when it comes to that question. What's been the biggest disagreement that you've had? All right, and moving on here then, goals for marriage. So here's some more stuff that I just want you to think about. Goals for marriage. What do you want out of marriage? All right, so think through that. What do you want out of marriage? And here's where I want a little bit of group interaction. I don't want you to answer the question, what do you want out of marriage? Let's kind of broaden this so nobody's on the hot seat here. What do people typically want out of marriage? Okay, to be happy. Good. I don't think anybody gets into marriage to be sad or upset. So to be happy.
Soulmate.
A soulmate, right? Find the one. Yeah.
To have a family.
To have a family. You mean like kids' family or just have a family?
Both.
Okay, yeah, both. Good. What else?
Companionship.
Companionship. Absolutely. I don't want to be alone. Right? What else?
And find your life partner, the one that you're do life with.
Yeah, one that you're going to do life with. Life partner. Think alike, see things alike, that kind of life partner stuff.
Not necessarily see things alike, but head in the same direction.
Okay, head in the same, good, okay.
To have someone to help you grow in Christ with them.
Okay. Absolutely. So grow in Christ. Yeah. Walk with the Lord. What else? There's a big one out there. Come on. Starts with an S and ends with X. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. When I was in youth ministry and there was just something out there, I would usually say it that way. All right. Yeah. Sex. Right. Can't deny that. What else?
Finances.
Okay. Like better finances or pooled together finances or?
Yes, yeah. And even the finances according to what way God wants you to use it.
Yeah.
Whatever He's using you as a couple for
Yeah.
in whatever area. Yeah.
Yeah. Absolutely. Okay. Anything else?
Child raising.
Yeah. Yeah. Just raising up kids
That's,
and a family.
that's not a situation now with grandchildren. Right?
Well,
Yeah.
children raising, yes.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. Yeah. All right, good. So think through what do you, now, I mean, we just talked about people in general, but what do you want to get out of marriage? And what are you hoping for? So that's a first question. More than anything, what are you hoping will happen because you get married? And really, like, if you have a pen or if you just kind of have a snapshot of your mind, or if you have a phone and you want to take a picture of this, I really want you to think through that. More than anything else, more than anything else, what are you hoping will happen because you get married? All right? So what are you hoping for? Like, and another way to say it is, if you had a magic feather and you could wave it, what would you make happen? Yeah.
Okay, I'm a born-again spiritual Christian. And an analogy would be, for instance, when two big horses, it's not my original analogy, listen to Dave Ramsey. So you get the two big horses that can pull like 8,000 pounds separately. But there's been a study, when these two horses come together, they're united, they can actually pull more weight.
Yeah.
So that you become truly united, the threefold cord cannot be broken.
Yeah. Yeah. Just kind of, yeah. And this here will be key. It might not show up right away, but I'm telling you, somebody who does a ton of marriage counseling, what people hope right? And I'm not saying hoping like, ooh, I hope this happens. Like, what? You see, this has to happen. This is why I'm getting married. Right? And that's like across the board, it can be a billion different things. But I want you to think for you, you don't have to answer it out loud here, but what are you hoping will happen? And then here's the, oh, I thought I had one other question. Well, let me see something here. Did I decide to slide it somewhere else? Oh, yeah, I did. I said it somewhere else. Okay, so there's the questions. More than anything else, what are you hoping will happen because you get married? All right? With that said, I want you to open up your books, the yellow books, and I want you to see here kind of where we're going with this. Go to the table of contents. And this is going to be, it should sound decidedly different than what I explained my pre-marriage counseling was like, right? You are not going to identify with any animal while you're in here. We are going to probably talk about finances. So a budget, we'll go over there. But look at chapter 1. Jesus must be the center of your life. And we're going to watch a video next week. Not a long one. It's going to be a short little video clip of a couple that decided before they got married to make Jesus the center of their life. And it's made a huge difference. You'll see that next week. Chapter 2 is love with Jesus at the center. Right? Now this isn't going to be some like hypothetical uber rise above the world, nothing can ever touch me kind of thing. This is, what does it look like to love my spouse with Jesus at the center? All right, and that's going to make a huge difference in your marriage, whether Jesus is at the center or not. And then chapter 3, we're going to get to problem solving with Jesus at the center. And you can kind of see a theme here, right? But problem solving, and you're going to get real stuff to practice with. We're going to talk about 4 rules of communication, and we're going to talk about this tool called the conference table, and you're going to get to practice that. And I'm going to have you practice some nonverbal communication. It's a fun exercise. We're going to do it here, but you'll get to practice it for homework. Then chapter 4, roles and expectations with Jesus at the center. Right, so roles and expectations. Husband, what's your role going to be? Wife, what's your role going to be? And what should you expect? Okay, and then chapter 5, communication with Jesus at the center. And once again, we'll go over some communication stuff. Then chapter 6, finances with Jesus at the center. Okay, we'll go through budget stuff. And like in detail budget stuff. We're not going to throw your budget up on the screen, but we're going to talk about what do you need to consider and what do you need to get going on. Okay? And then chapter 7, community with Jesus at the center. This book hits on it, and Canyon Hills hits on this. I really, really, really want you to be involved in community. Even before you get married, but especially after you get married. I want you to be involved in community. And Hannah, that'll be huge for you. But you'll have some built-in stuff there, but it'll be huge for you. And then chapter 8, last but not least, intimacy with Jesus at the center. And when it comes to intimacy, I think the way God has designed two people who are in relationship with each other is you get closer and closer and closer and closer, and it culminates in intimacy. Not just physical intimacy, but all kinds of intimacy, and we're going to talk about that, but specifically sexual intimacy, okay? So that's going to be where we're going for these 8 or 9 weeks that we're together. And with that, any questions? Does this hit everything you were hoping to hit? All the major topics? Anything missing out of here?
Actually, I have a question.
Yeah.
So this is actually premarital counseling, not just the class, like just a I don't know how it was in our little welcome thing.
Yeah, so that's a good question. So I'm going to rewind here all the way to the beginning of the class. My preference when it comes to pre-marriage counseling is not this setting.
Okay.
My preference is that you would be sitting with a mentor couple one-on-one. And they could ask you all kinds of questions and get to know you. You would get to know them. The way my wife and I do it is we don't do it here in this office. We have you over for dinner for however many weeks it takes, and you get to see the chaos of 6 kids and 2 dogs and all that stuff. The problem is we don't have enough people to do that. We knew the spring was coming, and we knew the summer was coming, and the mentor couples that we have are currently involved in those kinds of things. So the paperwork probably sounded a lot like you were going to meet with a couple, and we're having to morph it for this class. So yeah, but if you would like to meet with a mentor couple after we're all done, there will be an opportunity to let me know that, and we'll get you hooked up with somebody as quickly as we can. So, but there were a few people, I can't remember, who's getting married the soonest? Is it April? April, yeah. Yeah, we knew that was coming, and like, I couldn't wait for mentor couples to pop up on the screen. So we want to make sure we at least get you as ready as possible before the April time. Yeah.
Well, my understanding was that, because we're all at different places, and we're kind of unique in the situation in terms of, the mentoring process, that maybe some maybe will need more than others. Is that correct? Assessment?
Sometimes, is there more to your question, or you just wonder if there's like?
Well, yeah, I guess the time up, in other words, maybe some people don't have to go through this whole 9-step process or whatever.
Well, so we're taking everybody through all 9 of these.
Okay.
Yeah, at this upfront kind of stuff. Yeah. I think the nice thing that I see here is we can all learn from each other. I am not a huge, like, hopefully this isn't too wordy, but a demographically driven pastor where I like to see like teens together and college students together and young men. That's not my style, even though I know that's how we do it here at King Hills. My preference is that you've got people across age ranges. Because I need people in my life, you know, at all those different spots, and I can pour into people who are, you know, younger than me, both physically and spiritually. But I need people who are older than me, both physically and spiritually, right? Pouring into me. So I like the mix of this. We've got people all over the place, and we can learn from each other. So yeah.
I forgot to mention what drew me into Ken. Basically, his background, there's a lot of water under the bridge. I watched him for many months, and he said play hard, and I watched him interact with people and heard from other women and had met him as a person, and so I was drawn to his smile, and he was very persistent. I felt like the eagle. There's a story about our eagle, which the female eagle tests the male eagle, puts them through quite a test.
Really?
Yeah.
Oh.
Look on that.
Oh, okay. Gotcha.
So he passed a lot of tests.
All right, there you go. There was a testing phase and an observing. Did he know there was that testing phase going on?
I don't know.
That's the best kind of test then, right? Because if you study because you know the answers on the test, that's one thing. But if you just pass it, somebody observing you, that's a good thing. So yeah.
How long will these sessions go?
About an hour. About an hour to an hour and 15 minutes. I can talk and talk and talk. So I don't wanna kill anybody in here like, oh, you've just been talking like crazy. But at the same time, I don't want to rip anybody off. I want to be able to get through all the stuff. So about an hour and 15.
Because I just want to schedule something.
Yep, exactly. Yeah. And you're always, if you need to get going, you don't need to let me know. You can, it's not going to hurt my feelings. And if you can't get here until a certain time, come on in. So, all right? Just kind of relax. Oh, okay, gotcha. Yeah. All right. Well, here's what I want you to do for this upcoming week. Okay. First, I want you to read chapter 1 and complete the homework discussion questions. And the author does call them homework discussion questions. So, if homework, like, this isn't why I'm doing this, just kind of go with it. He's calling them homework discussion questions. So read through those. They're very self-explanatory, very well written. I would like you to memorize 1 Corinthians 10:31. Now I'm not gonna have you stand up in here and quote those, but I'm gonna reference that over and over and over. Okay, and you might already know that, but just so make sure you devote lots of time this week to reading it. And if you are just a go-getter and you're like, I know that one by heart, I want another one, 2 Corinthians 5:9. All right? Memorize that one. They both talk about the exact same thing. All right. Now, I want you to write down the number one thing you hope happens after you get married. Number one thing. All right, I want you to jot that down. And if you are not a writer, bullet point this. It can be one word, it can be a sentence. But if you are a journaler, right, feel free to write as much as you want. Okay? But one thing that you hope happens after you get married, and then write down the number one thing you hope doesn't happen after you get married. All right? Now, so the number one thing you hope happens, and the number one thing you hope doesn't happen. I'll get out of the way. And by the way, because Daniel will be watching this PowerPoint will be available along with that video. So if you somehow doesn't come out on your phone or you jot it down all the way. So. All right. Any questions? Okay. Well, if you have any questions, it's not up there, but let me give you my email address. You can email me. It's Ben M, so BENM at chccbw.org. Yeah, it's CHCCBW stands for Canyon Hills Community Church, Bothell, Washington. There was already a Canyon Hills Community Church somewhere, CHCC, I don't know something like that. So, anyways, we just had this really long.
At what?
At chccbw.org. All right. Well, with that, then I'm going to close this in prayer, and you're dismissed. And leave your name tags here. Leave the folders here. We'll have it all set for you next week when you come back here. Okay. All right. Heavenly Father, thank you again for our time today. I ask for your blessing over all who are here. God, I think there's one or two couples who couldn't make it today, so I ask for your blessing to be over them as well. And God, more than anything, we ask you to be honored and glorified with our lives, through what we say, through what we do, and through even what we think. God, for those who are in here, I pray that you would prepare them for that day when they will say, I do. And, work through your word, work through your spirit, even work through this book that they have. And, we're going to thank you in advance for all you're going to do. We pray this in Jesus' name. Amen. All right, you're dismissed. That's about an hour on the nose. So.